Hi everyone. So today I'm going to start off with a series of lectures on jurisprudence or legal theory. So before we indulge into detail on social contract theory, subscribe to the channel and also press the bell icon for forthcoming videos. So in this video lecture on social contract theory, I'll be covering three major thinkers: Thomas Hobbes, John Locke, and Rousseau. Social contract in political philosophy, we can say, is an actual or hypothetical compact or agreement that has been entered into between ruled and their rulers, that is, defining their rights and powers, limitations of on the individuals as well as on the government. So, if we look into the primitive societies, so according to this theory, people were not living in a happy or in a very uncivilized society. Where, for according to this theory. So then, by exercising natural reason, because since human beings are reasoned one, so they formed a society or a government by means of a social contract. So far as various thinkers are concerned, like Thomas Hobbes, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, and John Locke, their thinking or their views are keep on varying so far as social contract and the government is concerned. So Thomas Hobbes propounded the theory of social contract. So he was an English philosopher, political philosopher who wrote a very influential work, Leviathan, in 1651. So, so far as his book is concerned, he is depicting the state of nature, so in which uh, there was no enforceable criteria of right and wrong. People took themselves all that they could, and human life was solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. So far as Hobbes is concerned, he was saying all men are by nature equal in power, and basically they were driven by three passions. So one of these passions is a desire of safety. Second one is that is desire of gain, and then desire of glory. So far as state of war is concerned, so this is leading towards extreme insecurity and war that was with the fellow human beings just for the sake of protecting their right and gaining more. So far as property or other things are concerned, materialistic things are concerned, so that led to violence. So this violence can be. So far as a state of nature or a state of war is concerned, it can be ended only by entering into a social contract, giving liberty in the hands of sovereign, protecting that will their protection of their lives will be there. So if we look into Thomas Hobbes' theory of a social contract, so where men came and gathered and declared that we want to give up our rights, particularly to one person or to a government that may be authoritative as well. So far as a sovereign in Hobbes' view is concerned, is an absolute, and so far as law is concerned, the will of the person, will of the sovereign will be law. So this contract is constituted by two distinguishable contracts. First, they must agree to establish society by collectively and reciprocally renouncing the rights they had against one another in the state of nature. Secondly, this contract is containing that they must imbue with one person or assembly of persons with the authority and power to enforce the initial contract. So basically, firstly, they will be giving up their or surrendering their sovereign powers to one sovereign person or one assembly that will be going to enforce this very contract. John Locke, who is the second proponent or supporter of social contract, who he's an English philosopher and also called as father of liberalism. He wrote his very famous book, Two Treatises of Government in 1690, where he is depicting the state of nature, and that is entirely different from Thomas Hobbes, because in case of Thomas Hobbes, state of nature is solitary, poor, nasty, and there is no peace. But in case of John Locke, he conceived of state of nature not as a condition of complete license in the hands of a human being, but rather as a state in which humans, though free, equal, and independent, are subject to or are obliged under the law of nature, where they are respecting each other's rights to life, liberty, and property. So far as property is concerned, he even propounded the concept of private property that if someone is tilling a land, and that person should have right to take the benefit of his or her labor according to this theory. So far as the social contract is concerned, so the obligation to obey civil government under the social contract was conditional upon the protection of natural rights of each person, including the private property. Though, so far as these rights are concerned, these were protected under Thomas Hobbes theory as well, but there was no concept of private property. Even if we will look into the Jean-Jacques Rousseau, he has a somewhere different opinion on the concept of private property. So far as a sovereign is concerned, according to John Locke, that as some we can say democratic democratic or elected representative who will be or can be overthrown if that is violating the rights of the people. So for as consent is concerned, the sovereign is subject to power only and only with consent. Without consent, the people cannot be governed at all. So citizens are obliged to accept decisions by majority. It will be legislature, so that will be enacting the laws for the people, and these people will be elected. The representative will be elected by the people, and there will be no absolute nature of the sovereign. So law of nature remains as a permanent standard as a principle of protection against arbitrary authority. So if the government or sovereign is going to take away people's rights, then people have right to uh, overthrow the government and elect another government that may or that will be respecting the rights and the liberty of the people. So, according to John Locke, rights of the people will be protected. Apart from that, sovereign has not right to violate or take any kind of arbitrary decisions which will be against the interest of the people. So, third thinker we will consider as a Jean-Jacques Rousseau. Jean-Jacques Rousseau is a Genevian philosopher. So he wrote very famous two books, which are Discourse on the Origin of Inequality, that is in 1755, and another one is A Social Contract, that is a basic or major book or major work that is talking about social contract. So in this book, Discourse on Origin of Inequality, we can say he commonly referred to as a second discourse, and is an account of the moral and political evolution of human beings over the time, from a state of nature to modern society. So where he is totally different from both of the thinkers, and where he is stating that from the state of nature to modern society, the inequalities have been increased. The state of nature has led to, or the modern society has led to, uh, state of inequality. Because if we look into the state of nature, human beings were solitary, but also healthy, happy, good, and free. So what Rousseau called these societies as nascent societies were formed when humans began to live together as families and neighbors. Apart from that, the development, however, gave rise to the negative and destructive passions such as jealousy and pride, which in turn fostered social inequality and human vice. So far as these very unequal practices are concerned, these were started as society started began gathering or turning into more materialistic. Because according to him, if we look into the concept of private property, so that has paved the way for inequality and its protection by the state. So if we look into the social contract as propounded by Thomas Hobbes and Locke. So he is saying, Rousseau says that that social contract and government will be more in favor of protection of private property and will be giving or enhancing the difference between rich and poor, because some have property and others are forced to work for them. So that will be developing or giving rise to social classes. So according to Rousseau, civil society basically is formed to serve two purposes. That is to provide peace for everyone and to ensure the right to property for every lucky enough to have possessions. So if we look into his thought of social contract, so he has propounded some genuine social contract where people would receive in exchange for their independence a better kind of freedom, namely true political or republican liberty. Because if we look into the citizenship rights that are given under John Locke, those are more in favor of what you have already. And that will be enhancing the disparities and inequalities in the system, whereas he wants that society should be equal for everyone. So he wrote his second book, The Social Contract, in 1762, that published in 1762. So where he stated the man was born free and he is everywhere in chains. So far as liberty is concerned, he said liberty is to be found in obedience to what Rousseau called general will. So a collective will that aims at common good or enhancing common interest. So according to Rousseau, he propounded the theory of general will and giving more emphasis to collective rights instead of individual rights. So according to him, or according to his social contract, all individual and property rights are under general will. State is a moral person acting in general will, and its motive is to bring equality and liberty. So far as his theory is concerned, he is not stating that people should be getting enough rights without any kind of freedom. So, according to him, he says that rights should be protected, but there should be equality in case of distribution of resources or availability of resources. If people will be having equal resources, then these things will be working in a better way. Otherwise, this will lead to further inequality and that may become anarchic, or we can say a despotic rule later on.